Good Wednesday morning, Quad Cities. It is Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. The time right now is 9 o'clock, and it is time for Ask Andrew Live. I'm meteorologist Andrew Stutzke.
And I'm weather anchor Peter Warner. Not too bad of a day we're having here today.
No, not at all. I'm loving where temperatures have been the last couple of days, and what I'm loving even more, the wind. Gone. Out of here.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It felt like every day has been windy, especially when we got the warmth here so far this spring.
Oh, hands down. And, you know, that's got me to thinking this morning. I wonder how the wind turbines, we have a ton of those, kind of on the Illinois side of the river. I wonder how those have been doing the last couple of months. They have just got to been generating gangbusters worth of electricity.
Oh, yeah. Same with the Iowa side. There's a bunch like in between Iowa City and Des Moines out there, too.
Yeah.
So there's a ton that have been probably doing really well.
Have to see if we can dig into some of those stats for you. We'll see if we can work on that a little bit later here. But welcome in. This is Ask Andrew Live. If you've never been here before, we're happy to have you along.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's always a good time. We always talk, of course, a lot about weather. We're going to answer your questions as well. Easiest way to get your weather question to us is to text this number, 309-304-0888, 309-304-0888.
One more time, 309-304-0888.
And our awesome digital folks will take in your question. They'll get it to us here at the weather desk, and we will get right to answering it as best as we can. We already had a great question come in earlier this morning, and I'll give it a quick answer, but I definitely want to do a deeper dive into it, and I'm going to do that coming up on Monday. It was the one regarding how much oxygen I think a cornfield produces.
Yeah, that was Gary that asked that, and he said cloudy days compared to sunny days. How much oxygen is produced by a cornfield in July from a sunny day over a cloudy day?
Yeah, so I definitely want to do a deeper dive into that and get some data for you. We'll do a light dive into it coming up with just at least some basic stuff. But I think it's definitely an interesting topic, and I'm glad you asked that question because now I'm curious myself to see what happens. So we've got a lot to cover today. We're going to be covering, of course, the warmth coming in.
The warmth, big warm up.
Big warm up on the way. And when are we going to see severe weather again? There are signs pointing that it may get a little more active for the second half of May, because we're getting a nice break right now.
Getting a nice break, unusual kind of break really for this time of year.
It is, because this is usually one of our busier months, so it has to pick up at some point, right?
Yes, we're due in a way.
We are. Exactly, we are due. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about the upcoming hurricane season. We're getting some data in from Colorado State University.
Yes.
Could be a busy one again.
Could be. It's typical, though.
Yeah.
It's kind of becoming more of an active or annual trend almost with the warming we've seen.
It sure seems that way, yeah. And we're going to break down some of those numbers and what may hinder some storm development, at least early storm development this season. And then we're also going to go over today's question, which involved what happens when lightning strikes the ground.
Ooh.
Yeah, some crazy pictures from when that happens, so you want to stick around for that. So we'll start with what we covered this morning, which is just that, the lightning hitting the ground.
Let's do it.
Yeah, see what we got here. And then Peter's got some really cool stuff when it comes to our growing season, especially those of you that are green thumbers.
Yes.
You're going to want to pay attention
Plant
to this.
hardiness.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff.
There's some changes that have undergone recently, but there's the possibility of seeing more changes with that.
Yeah.
And we're going to go ahead.
I was going to say one way, good way, maybe for some.
Maybe for some.
It depends on what you like to garden, maybe, but.
Exactly. You might be able to, let's just say, maybe give yourself a little more variety than you're typically able to do.
Exactly. That's one way to put it.
Some of those dates may be adjusting a little bit. So, yeah, we'll do a deep dive into that as well with Peter coming up with the Flex.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So we look forward to that. Let's go over what we talked about this morning. And our question today came from Susan in Moline. She had asked, what happens essentially when lightning strikes the ground? Why does the ground look different when this happens? And I asked her for a picture. I haven't gotten a response yet, so I'm going to pull a picture offline that shows a good example of what happens afterward. So this I found on Reddit, and it actually is a very similar picture that you can find across a lot of parts of the internet if you just do a simple simple search for lightning striking the ground. And this was at a golf course where lightning happened to strike the ground, and you can see what it did there. It actually looks like another multiplying lightning bolt kind of hit the ground and went over top of the grass there, causing some burn marks. Really dramatic picture. And by the way, this is exactly why you do not want to be on a golf course during a thunderstorm. Look at how far out that lightning was able to spread across the surface of the turf. That's some scary stuff. So here's what happened. As lightning hits the ground, it actually creates what are called Lichtenberg figures. And that's that branching pattern. Kind of looks like a tree branch or multiple lightning bolts that you saw there scoured into the ground. The intense heat actually travels along the surface of the ground, creating all of that. Because when you think about the ground, we have to remember that it's wet, and that is often a good conductor of electricity. That can certainly do that. It allows it to travel across the surface there. The other thing that this can create, in addition to those scar marks on the ground, is you can get what are called fulgurites. And what those are is the extreme heat caused by lightning, because we know that lightning is multiple times hotter than the surface of the sun. That can actually create a solid mass made out of the ground, the soil itself, because it's so hot, it melts it. And it almost think of it like a fossil, like a fossilized version of the soil. And we've seen that happen many times too. If you do an internet search, you'll see a lot of examples of those. And what was also interesting is that lightning can actually change the chemistry of the soil. Now, we see this in the spring when we get that quick green up. We get a lot more of that nitrogen to infuse itself into the ground. Well, also because lightning is so hot, it can change the chemistry and the composition of the soil. So that was fascinating to learn about this morning, and a very good question there. One more thing I'll go over here really quickly, and then we're going to go over to Peter to talk about this change that could be coming, to a garden or a yard near you when it comes to how the climate is changing and how things are shifting. Dates are moving, temperatures shifting a little bit as well. Let's talk about the upcoming hurricane season really quick, because we did get some new forecast data. This is from Colorado State University. They are predicting a little bit more of a busier season compared to average, but slightly less active than last season. And this is why. So they're predicting 17 named storms. The average is 14. You can see what we did last year. That was 18. When it comes to hurricanes, 9 predicted. The average is 7. And major hurricanes, which are the Cat 3 plus ones, they're predicting 4. Last year we had 5. So it's expected to be a little bit more of an above average season, but not quite as busy as last year. The one limiting factor that could really hinder early season development is the fact that we have cooler than normal water for much of the Atlantic right now. And how cool? Well, it's cooler, about the magnitude of about 2 degrees Fahrenheit cooler. And that may not sound like a lot, but boy, that sure is enough to hinder some of the development early on. And by early, I mean June, July, because again, we don't see hurricane season ramp up typically until we get into August and September, later on into the summer season. So something we'll be watching. NOAA will be releasing their forecast, their hurricane season forecast, coming up. It's the 3rd Thursday of the month. In May. So all these TBAs will be filled in by NOAA here in the next couple of weeks. We'll see what they have to say, but certainly looks like it's going to be a little busy again for sure. We're talking about ground temperatures and everything else related to that, some climate shifting going on as well. So I want to throw it to Peter, who kind of dug up some really fascinating stuff about how our climate change situation right now could actually be shifting how you grow things or where you grow things. So we'll send it to Peter in the next studio. Hey, Peter.
Hey, Andrew. Yeah, it's very interesting data that we're seeing. And I want to look here at plant hardiness. Now, what exactly is plant hardiness? Well, it's an average of the lowest annual temperature. So take, for example, the 30-year average from 1951 to 1980. Notice your average lowest temperature of the year. So the lowest temperature you're going to record was around -15 to -16.5 degrees here in the Quad Cities. And look at this trend we've seen as we've gotten from 1993 to 2022. Look at that warmth. It's a significant increase, about 2 degrees warmer than normal. Now, why is plant hardiness important? Well, it plays a major role in what plants can grow and what plants can thrive and, survive these cooler temperatures versus warmer temperatures. So when you have warmer average annual lowest temperature, that means more plants can grow in your climate, and that shifts your climate zone. So there's different types of zones that they have for plant hardiness. So here in the Quad Cities in the past, we were at a 5A. So that's -15 to -20 degree temperatures. We were at an average of -15.4 in the past from 1951 to 1980. Currently now, through 2024, 1995 through 2024, we've increased by just about -1 or +1.5 degrees to -14 degrees Fahrenheit. Now in the future, by the time we get to 2036 to 2065, we're forecasted to be a 6 6A. So jumping from the 5 class to the 6 class. So a 6A, that's -5 to -10 degrees for our average lowest annual temperature. Now, again, why is plant hardiness important? It plays a massive role in gardening and agriculture. So for example, with agriculture, when it comes to your crop insurance rates, this actually plays a major role in determining what your crop insurance will be looking like. Also, when it comes to gardening, determines what plants you can and cannot plant, where I guess as we get warmer, what plants you're going to be able to plant a little bit more, but also it allows more maybe potential invasive species to climb up further here towards the Midwest. Because here in the upper Midwest, that's where we're going to be seeing a little bit more of an impact with these increasing temperatures. So that means more invasive species, especially insects that could be harmful towards agriculture, and also some ivies that are a little bit more, invasive and kind of harder to control. Those are going to start to climb its way further up here towards the Midwest, and actually bring us a little bit of a negative impact there as well. Andrew, let's get back to you.
Yeah, great explanation there. And it goes to show, too, that it's our overnight low temperatures. Those are the temperatures that are warming the most when you go back and look at the data from past to present. It's not so much the daytime temperatures, but it's those overnight lows that have really seen a lot of upward movement in the last several decades. So, for example, that 6A zone that Peter showed us eventually going into, if you look at the zone map, that's currently down in southern Illinois right now. So we're talking about that kind of an environment and scenario moving back up in our direction, which was really, really impressive. One more thing to talk about before we get to that, and then we're going to get to your questions here on this same topic. Talking about the soil and the temperatures and planting, we're going to start getting into that time of year where we really have to keep up on rainfall. I know I've said the last few months, March, April really doesn't matter too much. We'd like to see some rain, but once you get the rain, you want to see it consistently keep coming, especially once we get into later May and later into June. So especially next month, that's when the sun really begins to get stronger. It gets higher into the sky. It brings in more solar energy, and that means it's going to be able to pull more water out of the soil itself. So this is the evaporation rate. And how they measure this is they put a big old pan of water out and they put it in the sun, and then there's a device that will measure how much of that has been evaporated on a daily basis. This is how much moisture that sun is able to pull out of the ground for the entire month, the next 3 months coming up. In May, it's a little more than 5.5 inches, but boy, does it jump in June to more than 6.5 inches, and still stays that way in July. So the next 3 months is when the average evaporation will peak. So that's why starting in May, it's very important that we keep up on rainfall consistently, because if we go a few weeks without decent rain, that can really get us into a lot of trouble when it comes to dry soils and drought. Thankfully, we're not there yet.
Not there yet.
We're only 7 days in, so we've still got time, but it is something we're really going to have to keep aware.
Yeah, and we need to get as much rainfall as we can, and especially before that July month, because that's when we start to trend a little bit drier.
Yes.
So we want to really kind of load up that soil here in May and also in June. And it's obviously looking very dry here to start your May.
It is, yeah. We don't have a chance for rain in the forecast until likely at least next week, other than today. There's an isolated chance this afternoon.
Today, yes.
Keyword isolated, which means if you look at your radar, it's probably going to fill a tiny little dot in the corner, and that's it.
Yeah.
Not too much more than that. But if you're looking for widespread rain, we got to wait till late next week, it looks like.
Yes, potentially.
Potentially, yeah. We'll see how it shakes out. We are just about at 9:15, so if you guys have questions, we've got some answers for you.
We do.
We'll dive into the chat and see what folks are talking about this morning.
Yeah, we got a couple good ones in here. Rob from Rock Falls is wondering why severe weather hit or miss in some areas.
So this time of year, not so much in the spring, but I would say in the summer, it seems to be more scattered. I will say so far this spring, we've had a hard time getting widespread, organized severe weather in the Quad Cities outside of Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday has probably been our most widespread and most intense event so far this year. 14 tornadoes.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's pretty widespread, and that's pretty intense. We just have not had the right dynamics, the right amount of moisture in here. Moisture this time of year is a really tough cookie to get up here. You're talking about you need a strong south wind to get it up here from the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America. You also need, of course, a really strong front. We also don't have what we talked about yesterday, that corn sweat. We don't have that extra moisture yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, that really helps propel storms as we get into the summer, because we don't need that strong Gulf jet making its way up here.
Exactly. And as we saw all winter long, where has the active storm track been? all south. And it was just days ago, flood watches across parts of Texas, all the way through Arkansas, Mississippi. In fact, there's still flood watches going on in the southeast right now. So until we can get some of that energy up here, it's just going to take time. And it will eventually happen.
Yes.
But because that jet stream has been tied up to the south of us, we have just not seen that organized, widespread, heavy, severe weather event type stuff yet, other than Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, we're thankful for that. Who wants it, right?
Yeah.
We just want the rain.
Yes, we'll take a good old rain, nice little inch or two, but beyond that, we can stay away.
Yeah, we don't need the tornadoes.
No, we do not need
sure.
those. Not at all. Rick was wondering, what's our current soil temperature here in the Quad Cities?
That is a great question.
That is a great question.
Now, this is going to be a shot in the dark because of some of the funding cuts. We don't have access to all the data that we used to have here. So let's see if it's still up. Usually I got it from the University of Illinois. They have this climate network here. And it's still up. At least I think it's still up. So we're going to go to, it's going to have me log in. Give me a second here. We're going to go to the soil. We're going to go to the Big Bend, which is close to us. And right now, the soil temperature, when you're talking about sod, so sod means grass on top of it, 4 inches down, we're at 61 degrees. If you go 8 inches down, we're at about 58 degrees.
Okay.
So we're warming up pretty good
Warming
there.
up pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I know a lot of folks, especially with the morel mushrooms, you need to be about 50, 55. So we're well beyond that. In fact, folks are finding those morels all over the place.
Oh yeah, it's been pretty busy this season.
Yeah.
Not enough rainfall for it though.
Be nice if we had a little more rain,
Yeah.
They'd be a little more widespread. So you really got to hunt closely.
It's not part of the fun though.
That's the thing, it's a luck of the draw, It's like a lottery, winning the lottery.
Yes.
Good question.
That is a great question. Tim from Moline is just saying good morning. It's so great to see these summer temps. I noticed the river levels are up a little bit on the Rock and the Mississippi. Are we potentially seeing signs of any minor flooding?
I don't see any flooding other than what we had in the Wapsie over the weekend. Even that has started to go down in terms of levels, so we're not worried about that. I did see someone post, I think it was on the Mississippi River Facebook page over the weekend, about the water in Davenport getting above the landing there, the stairs that kind of go down a little bit lower. That's normal per se. The Mississippi River as of right now is technically not in flood. It is higher than it's been recently, but it is still below flood stage at this time.
Yes.
And, given the lack of rain in the forecast in the next week and a half, I don't anticipate any flooding right now.
I was going to say, pretty much throughout the whole region, we're looking pretty dry here because we're kind of getting that high pressure set up here over the upper Midwest into southern Illinois, so it's going to be very quiet.
Yeah. No concerns about river flooding in the near term.
Marcus. Have you heard of Marcus?
We know who that is.
You know who Marcus is?
I'll be seeing him later today.
Marcus from Knoxville. My question is, how does corn sweat affect weather patterns?
Corn sweat absolutely has a big impact on weather patterns. Not only does it impact the weather pattern, it impacts how we feel. We're miserable when that corn sweat starts peaking, and you're going to find this out this summer.
I got part of it when I moved here. I was sweating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're going to be in for the long haul this time around. So the air just gets to be so thick, and it really leads to some increased rainfall rates. I guarantee you there's a study out there somewhere. I probably can't pull it up in the next 30 seconds, but I know someone's done a study that has said the corn sweat process, all of these corn crops that we have around here, has definitely increased our rate of rainfall in the summer.
It has to.
Yeah. It doesn't mean we're seeing more rain in the summer, but it means when we do see rain, it's coming down heavier and heavier because of all the added moisture.
As I say, there's more moisture present for those storms to kind of suck up and precipitate back down to the ground.
Exactly. And I'm not, dissing our farmers or anything, saying, oh my gosh, it's your fault, we're getting all this heavy rain and things like that. But that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Is the more crops we have that can put that water into the air, the more heavier rain you're going to have.
And again, that sometimes isn't a bad thing at all.
No, it's not.
It's a good thing.
Exactly.
So
I think it's a natural process. I mean, look at what our land used to be before we inhabited it. I mean, there were plants everywhere. Everything was green. There were fields, there were prairies and all of that stuff. So, it's hard to go back and look at that data because it's not like the colonies had weather stations in their backyard and they're taking down weather instruments and stuff like that, But we definitely know that there's a connection there with the heavier rainfall rate increasing because of that crop evapotranspiration.
Yeah, interesting. Not a bad thing, though.
Big word, yeah.
Yes, evapotranspiration. It's my favorite words.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. I made John Diaz say that on air one time. He was not
Did you
happy.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He wasn't too happy with me. Oh, Thomas was wondering, are there chemtrails in our area?
Oh my goodness! Don't even get me started. They're called contrails.
The contrails.
Yes, they are called contrails. Yes, yeah, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Before I get a whole bunch of hate mail in my inbox and my Facebook inbox.
We're seeing mid-80. Tyler was wondering, we're seeing mid-80 degree temperatures forecasted. When do we usually see the first 90 degree temperature?
First 90 degree temperature. I have a feeling I may have done something with this earlier. Let me search my library really quick and see if there's anything in there in regards to the 90s that I may have done. Oh, I actually have done something. So this is from last year. You got to ignore the orange, and I'm glad I labeled that days seen so far in 2024. There's your average. So what you're gonna concentrate on the blue bars, not the orange ones is what happened last year. But usually we get our first 90 degree in May, and most likely you're looking at the end of the month for that average, more than likely. But look at how it stair steps up. 5 in June, 9 in July.
Oh yeah.
It seems like, though, almost every year, especially in June and in August, we usually surpass the average pretty good.
Yeah, especially recently. That trend has kind of jumped up a lot.
And there's a few hometowns, looking at the data this morning, if you live down near Macomb, Monmouth, south of Burlington, you may crack 90 degrees next week, potentially.
Oh yeah, we're going to be seeing some real nice warmth, even into Mother's Day.
Yeah. And the thing that, what think about in your mind, we did storm track at university. You may remember that back in the day. What about the air allows the temperature to get to 90 degrees easier? Dry conditions, right?
Yeah.
We don't have the humidity yet. I don't see any humidity in here next week, actually. Even with a south wind, we're still going to have dew points in the 40s and 50s. So the drier that air stays, the easier it's going to be for us to get to 90 degrees.
Yes. Expands easier, too.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot more space for that radiation.
You're right. Yeah. So if we stay dry and we don't get meaningful rainfall for a good chunk of this month, hello heat in June, in July, and probably August.
Keep it dry, and dry heat, I'm okay with that. That's not too bad.
We'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, first 90 is likely later this month, according to the averages and the historic statistics.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Not too bad, though. One isn't terrible.
I think one's manageable.
That's fine.
Yeah.
11, though, that'd be a lot.
11's a lot.
Yeah.
That's like almost half the month.
I don't know if
Let's not do that in May.
Let's not do that. No. Billy. Good morning, Billy.
Good morning.
Is a cutoff flow similar to anything tropical?
A cutoff low, is it similar to anything tropical? You could say it has one similarity in that a tropical disturbance or any kind of tropical low pressure is typically not attached to any kind of jet stream.
That's true.
It works totally independent of that. And that's what a cutoff low does, is it works independent of that as well. It gets cut off from the jet stream. There's nothing to push it along unless it runs into a front, and that's about it. So that's about the only thing they have in common. It's just that they're not attached to a jet stream.
Not too much, I guess not too much other similarities.
Yeah.
It's a tropical versus cyclonic system, I guess so.
Cold core versus warm core. Yeah, they're two different kind of beasts.
Yes, very. That's pretty much all we have for questions as of now. I know, we moved through them today, too.
Wow. Can we go back to the top question we had that I was going to dive into a little bit more? Let's go ahead and read that, and then I'll give you the light version.
Yeah, cloudy days compared to sunny days. How much oxygen is produced by a cornfield in July from, say, a sunny day over a cloudy day, or even in general? I'm kind of curious about that.
So I just did a quick little search, and I've seen this statistics before, too. I remember this back in climatology in college. But an acre of corn, according to the source here, can produce enough oxygen for 131 people for a full year.
Really?
And that's just an acre of corn. You know how many hundreds of thousands of acres of corn we have around here? Lots.
Lots of them.
So that is a big thing. Again, I'm going to do a deeper dive into some of the data. I'll see if I can find some more data on this. We do know that plants are more active on sunnier days. You're going to see more of that release on a sunnier day versus a cloudier day. But yeah, I'm curious to dig into the data here to see that. And also to remind you too that plants, what do they also take out of the air? CO2.
Yes.
So how much CO2 are these cornfields taking out?
Oh, yeah. That's another way to look at it.
Yeah, they're taking that and converting it into oxygen, in addition to corn sweat.
Yes.
So they're multitasking.
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
But I will dive into the data on that. And I will do that for Ask Andrew on Monday.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great question.
Be a good question.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
He's got a question.
I got a question.
Okay.
So I remember we're seeing the 80s this week. When are we typically going to start seeing that corn sweat? I don't know if you covered this earlier in the show.
Oh, yeah. We can
I'm
pull that
wondering,
up.
when are we going to start to see that moisture kind of make its way back? Like, when does it start?
Sure.
Because I haven't been here yet for a full corn season, so I'm getting a little bit, when do I have to start worrying about that humidity?
Sure, yeah. So talked about this, I believe it was yesterday or Monday. But this is showing, that movement of the water through the plant, which we call evapotranspiration. And this is what that looks like. So starting this month, now that the corn is coming up out of the ground, it will start to release some water. And what you're looking at on the left there is the crop water usage in inches per day. So when we get to the end of this month, the crop is essentially using about 1/10 of an inch of water each and every day. And of course, some of that will evaporate into the air. But look at the dramatic jump. It doubles and it triples, and it more than triples,
Wow.
heading into late June and into July until it reaches the tassel stage. And then that's when you'll start to see all of that water go to work as corn sweat into the atmosphere. And it's not this chart, I had a different one, but when you break this all down at the peak of this, it is equivalent to throwing about 1/4 of an inch of water in the air per day when the corn
Wow.
reaches its maximum height of evaporation there.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of water, and that's why it gets so stinking humid around here. It's like having 1/4 of an inch of rain every single day and having the sun immediately come out after you. You know what that feels like. We get a storm in the morning, we get 100% humidity, the sun comes out, we go up to 90 degrees, and the humidity is just unbearable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, 10 minutes outside and you're like,
You're done. Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even move and you're sweating. You felt like you run a marathon.
it's like, I know in Dallas when I was at school, your face would just become sticky walking outside.
Yeah.
You don't even have to do anything.
Exactly. It's a bad day for us on TV because we got to keep powdering and our hair's all over the place, and we're sweating through our suit because it's so humid, and
goodness.
it's not a good time of the year. But yeah, we thankfully have a while for that. So that's why I'm telling folks, in the next few weeks, get outside and enjoy the 80s that we have now, because they're different than the 80s we're going to have a month from now.
Yes.
We're going to talk about a heat index.
Yeah, I was arguing you could maybe say this is one of the best weeks of the year with temperatures because we don't have that moisture yet.
I agree. It is. It really
Spring
is.
bloom too coming in.
Yeah,
Perfect weekend to do something.
it is. It's going to be a nice weekend. for
Mother's Day
moms.
activities.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of brunches.
Ooh,
Find an outdoor brunch.
brunch. That
Yeah.
sounds good. I'm hungry.
Ooh, Brandy's got a question.
Yes.
We'll
Let me
see if it comes through. Sometimes it takes a minute.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I didn't see him send it on that other way. Do soybeans affect the humidity like corn sweat does?
They do, but just not on a more significant level. Corn by far is the biggest offender when it comes to throwing moisture into the air. Soybeans, if I had to take a quick stab into the dark, just on the knowledge that I know, it's likely about 1/4 to 1/2 of what a stalk of corn could do.
That makes sense, about size-wise too.
You think look at a corn stalk's orientation too, it's perfectly straight.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the perfect way to projectile water into the atmosphere. Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah. It's like it was meant to do that,
Yes.
which it was.
I was going to say, probably was, wasn't it?
Yes. That's what it was meant to do. Yes. Great question,
Goodness,
though,
that was a
Randy.
great, yes.
Very good question.
Anything else?
Is that all of them?
That's all we got.
I will ask anybody in the chat. We got, 90 seconds left?
Yeah.
Has anybody seen the gnats come out yet? The ones that attack your face?
Oh,
They're out. Yes. So those are going to stick around for a few more weeks, likely until we get the heat in here. That will kill them off. But yeah, you're going to have to put up with those attacking gnats for a little while.
I saw them yesterday on my walk.
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
That's what those are.
Ugh.
They're so bad where Cooper and I walk out of the canal that I have to wear a net over my
Oh,
head
do you really?
because that's all they do. They just attack your head. They don't attack your arms or anything. They go right
How's
for
it
your
your
head.
head?
I have no idea, but
Ask
it's
Andrew
annoying.
next Wednesday.
So if you see me walking around the canal with a hat and a little net around my face, no, I'm not a beekeeper. No, I'm not doing anything nefarious. I'm just tired of the gnats attacking my face.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Oh, they're just not fun.
I'd rather that though than mosquitoes.
Yeah, and that'll be next. That'll be later next month. I know. So much good news on a Wednesday, right? No, we always have good news to talk about. And with that, yeah, I think we can go ahead and we can wrap things up here for this Wednesday.
It's a good one.
Yeah, we had a good day, a lot of good questions. Again, I'll get to that corn question coming up next Monday on Ask Andrew during the GMQC show.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, we'll look forward to it. You guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We'll see you back here next week for another episode of Ask Andrew Live. Take care, Quad Cities.
Continue with us and watch free now on the 8 Plus app everywhere you stream.